Look at that plant. I want you to know that everything was grown in my garden. Don't touch that plant!
Is it poisonous?
She'll become part of the plant.
Hey everyone, welcome to Flower Power Garden Hour. I'm your host, Marlene.
And I'm your co-host, Bruce.
And this is your September to-do list and question and answer. You send us your questions and Bruce and I try to give you the answers.
And sometimes we get them and sometimes we guess.
And no, it's not
No.
guessing. It is a scientifically thought out, methodical process that we come to a conclusion that probably is right, but a lot of times could be wrong. Right?
Wrong.
Okay. I was going to say, but no matter what, we'll talk about it, and then we'll discuss it. And in fact, that's what we were doing before we were even going through. We started talking about the questions. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we're not even recording. That's what plant people do. We should probably record what we're saying. So one, it's all like off the cuff and fresh, and two, it's good stuff.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. All right, September to do. Do you want me to start? Do you want to start?
Why don't you start?
Okay. Why don't I start? Well, generally, I always start with the vegetable garden. And some people may not even vegetable garden, but that's okay. So planting, yes. In theory, temperatures start cooling down in September. And I say in theory because I've noticed, and I'm sure most gardeners and even non-gardeners notice a trend, that it used to be mid-September, we finally broke that 100-degree. And you're like, second part of September, yes, feels like fall. And now we could go into October with 100-degree temperature. So it seems like that shift is the summer's coming later and lasting longer.
Yeah. And we're getting supposedly, we're going to hit 100 degrees again in the not too distant future in a couple of days.
Yeah. I believe that. We're still in August, which is still peak summer, even though people send their kids to school. I'm like, hey, hold off. Just because your summer's over doesn't mean mine's over. But we'll start with vegetable garden. And this is still true, even though, temperature still changes, is still true. So planting, what can you do? Someone has an opinion. Catnip.
We have a kitty cat.
Is it catnip? Telling plant more catnip. All right.
That's your first September thing to do. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, walking around a little picket sign. More catnip. More catnip. Oh, wow.
If this keeps up, we'll take a short break and put Kitty in his special room.
Special. I just picture a padded room. It's Ruffles. I don't think we ever said Ruffles' name. It's Ruffles.
Ruffles' name is Ruffles, not because he has ridges, but because he has ruffles.
And then you have Roxy.
I was going to say his brain clearly has no ridges.
Yeah. But he's a sweetheart. Not to me.
He is a sweetheart.
Not to Joe, because when Joe came over, Joe was like, oh, let me pet him. He's like, and he went to his room. He got sent to his room.
Yeah,
It's okay. I don't think people mind. Oh, that sounded. Okay, we're going to continue. All right.
Do you realize the cat is 3 floors down? No.
Yeah, shut up. Beets. Start by seed. Direct sow in the ground. Broccoli plants, right? So if you started them, you're good to go. Nurseries are getting on the ball, so they're starting to have plants of fall vegetables. Brussels sprouts, my nemesis. Cabbage, carrots, obviously direct seed. You don't want to transplant carrots. We've discussed that before. Celery, either plants or seeds. Collards, kale, seed. Kohlrabi, leeks, best by seed this time of year. Lettuce, peas, you could do plants or seeds, depending on what you could find. Radishes, seeds, because never find them. Why would you buy them? Yeah, and luckily, at least growers know that they plant corn and carrots in 6-packs, but at least they know no radishes. And spinach by seed. So that's your vegetable planting for September.
Hey, now I have a question. Now that we're talking about broccoli,
yeah.
Let's just say I planted my broccoli now. And by the way, my broccoli plants are still in the ground from last winter.
I was going to say, we need an update of your broccoli. It hasn't.
I stopped picking them because they started getting really bitter, but they're still producing some. And they're covered with some sort of black bug with orange spots, and it's not a ladybug.
Oh, it sounds like a stink bug?
I don't know, but
is it
I
large,
think it's
like
time
a
to rip him
harlequin
up.
bug? That's usually, yeah, I think so too. I'm surprised. Well, I mean, they should be going to flower, or they're just so depleted they're not even going to go to flower.
Oh, they're flowering now. I mean, I
Oh,
was
okay.
actually thinking of maybe cutting them down about 6 inches or
Do
8
it.
inches from the ground
Yeah.
and seeing when it gets cool if they'll resprout.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
the problem why is you're never going to have that full broccoli head
right.
that you originally, but that usually comes and goes just once. You get one good broccoli head, maybe two, and then you get all these little side tufts, which if you collect enough, you have broccoli.
Oh yeah, I had enough broccoli so that I could have 2 servings a week from, I guess I'll say January or February until
Mhm.
probably May.
Yeah,
So it was worth it.
I usually just start letting mine go to flower because I look around, there's not much, I mean, I don't do a lot of like winter flowers, so I let it go because it's a great pollinator for those early
Right.
pollinators. And then, I do get not so much on the broccoli, I would say, but usually on my cabbage, I get cabbage aphids. So it's a way to control them is just by pulling them out.
Well, that's
Um,
true. So
so
let's just say we put our broccoli seedlings in and we hit
mhm,
100 degrees for a week.
they're
What
fine.
will happen to our broccoli
They're
seedlings?
fine. Done that. I mean, that's what happens. It's shocking how you plant them. You're like, oh, don't plant in the heat. You plant in the heat. And, I mean, if you water them in, and actually, I never gave them supplemental water. They're just on the irrigation that my vegetable garden's in.
Wow.
They don't care. They don't bolt. They don't, yeah, they're fine. I
Now,
mean,
Brussels sprouts, on the other hand, can be a
oh,
problem. Mine
yes.
did bolt before they produced this year.
Bolting's a problem, and my problem is I just never get the really good girthy uh sprouts. I think
I
I'm going
yeah,
to. I'm like, oh, 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 and then I don't know what happens. They just sort of like get dried, and I mean, I could harvest them, but I'm like,
I've had 1 year of amazing Brussels sprouts and then 1 year of little nubs.
yeah,
So I have no answer for that, but I'm thinking cool is the answer for Brussels sprouts, but who knows? Maybe
yeah,
it's something else.
yeah. I think they're more of a coastal. I've heard, oh, if you chop the top off of them, just like you would do pinching a plant. You
Mhm.
cut the top, force the side because it's
That makes
vegetative
sense.
growth. It does make sense. So I think I might try that.
Now, I do want to say that back in the old country, which is Long Island, Brussels sprouts were clearly a big thing because everybody notices the variety Long Island improved.
Oh,
And of course, we feel you can't improve upon Long
I
Island,
was
but
gonna I was gonna say there's a joke somewhere in there,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Now, so while we're talking about the sprouting from seeds, we've been talking about vegetables. I think it's worth talking little about the flowers.
Sure. Yeah.
Of course, from seed, I think direct sowed you could probably put in calendulas probably about now.
Oh, if you want them taking over your world,
Well, that's true. Calendulas do become a little bit
they
weedy,
do.
but there are dwarf varieties, which obviously you don't want to get them go to seed, but they are beautiful fall and early winter
Oh
flowers.
yeah.
I found they do freeze.
Oh, see, I had a bad experience. My friend who has a beautiful garden, Patricia Carpenter, she's been on the podcast. She's a native gardener, but her front garden is different ornamentals. And she had calendula just take over her garden. And I said, I am never, ever, ever planting it. And of course, I planted it years ago, but I ripped it all out. But guess what I fell for a couple years ago?
The
There's a
pink ones?
yes. But I will say they're not as invasive.
Well, that's one of the downsides. We don't talk about this, but there are quite a few invasive perennials that are they're not going to become invasive to California, but they will be
Mhm.
invasive in your garden.
Yes, yes,
And
yeah.
one of them is that I love, but it's a coastal weed. It's called Laparusa uh, laxa. I
Laperoute,
think now it's Freesia laxa. It's cute little pink flowers,
yeah.
but you've got to pull the seed pods off because buy one get 10, buy 10 get a million.
Yeah, that one pops up in pots.
It's a great flower though.
Yeah, it's cute. I can never
Yeah.
remember the name of it, so yeah.
Yeah, it used to
It's
be Laparusa laxa. It had a great
yes.
sound to it, but now it's Freesia laxa.
Yeah,
I'm sure
freezer, I
it'll
can see.
change next
Yeah,
year.
yeah. We'll have to do an episode on your top 10 weedy perennials that you love and
Yes.
hate at the same time. The
And so
oops
I would like
planting.
to add that. So starting flowers, and if you like to grow your perennials from seeds, this is a great time to start them as the weather gets a little cooler
Mhm.
so that you can get some good growth in and plant them before, I'm going to say before the super rains set in, just so that you want to have some good roots before they get drenched with rain so they don't rot.
Yeah.
We used to start them on the East Coast in July and then plant them around October. But we have had completely different situation there where we get about 4 inches of precipitation every month, almost
Ooh.
like clockwork,
Ooh.
so that it was just not, you don't get the drenchings except during summer storms. What are those, right?
Yeah, I was like, huh? It actually sprinkled the other day. I was driving into Sac and it sprinkled in thunder and lightning. So
Oh, I
I
missed
know.
them.
It was like, wow, summer storm. Crazy.
So
Oh,
yeah, so that's it for me. I would add one thing with
yeah.
with bulbs,
Mm-hmm.
which I think you have might have mentioned.
I haven't talked about bulbs
It's
yet, but yeah.
well, it's not too late to. It's very close, but not too late to get fall flowering crocus bulbs. Those generally get shipped out in early September, and if you get them in the ground, you might get a few flowers this year. They
Yeah,
don't
because
always bloom the first
they're
year.
one of the first to bloom. Yeah. So you could still buy your bulbs. I mean, how late do you plant your daffodils
Well,
or some bulbs?
generally mid to late October. I've planted them as late as December,
Yeah.
just depending on
Mm-hmm.
timing.
Yeah.
Uh,
And if you want to get them and you're not sure they're chilled like your tulips or hyacinths,
right.
you want to be able to put them in the fridge for a couple
The good news
weeks.
about daffodils is here you don't have to refrigerate them.
No, but the tulips and the
The
even
tulips and hyacinths, yeah,
hyacinths
you
do
should.
better. Yeah.
I
So
mean, they'll still come back the next year with, if they're going to come back at all, they will come back next year. Just even if you don't take them out and put them in the fridge,
mhm.
just leave them in the ground. And if you're going to get rebloom, you will, and you don't have to worry about cooling then. But for the first season, it's a good idea to cool them.
Well, you're going to have your Bruce's bagels and bulbs again.
I
So,
am.
did you pull out all your hyacinths and are they chilling?
My hyacinths are in the ground.
Okay.
I had
Yeah.
a second year bloom out of my first. I put them in 2 years ago. First year bloom was great.
Yeah.
Second year bloom was, I'm going to say, very good to really good.
Okay. Yeah. I've never
Yeah,
dug up hyacinths. I do notice, a decrease in some of them, but I'm always like,
right.
okay, was that, I
I
mean, some are gone. Is that because the gophers got to them? Is that, who
I will say
knows?
this: they even in areas where there's a deep winter, hyacinths still over time will go downhill a little
Hmm.
bit. You don't get that beautiful gigantic head of flowers
Oh, yeah.
the third or
Smells
fourth
so
year,
good.
even in the East Coast. So I
Yeah.
think it just, like tulips, they just go downhill if you let them flower. If you don't let
Yeah.
them flower, you're going to have great
Yeah.
flowers when you let them flower.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine going out there and cutting off the buds of a hyacinth? There's no way I could do that.
No,
I'd be like, this is for next year. This is for next year. There's no way. They smell so good. I love them.
I love them.
Um, and really, so September, I mean, you could also start planting perennials in natives, but I would do it in the end of September. I mean, as I was saying, there used to be remember, we're coming from zone 9, might be in a different zone, but we always had sort of that almost a delineation between summer and fall, mid-September.
Right.
But you could almost assume we're not going to have the spike in as hot, or if we do, it's not going to last as long. And it's before any chance of frost. So you could get those perennials established, your
Right.
natives established. And of course, there's fall annuals. People always want to know, oh, what can I plant for the fall? And, go to your local nursery and that's what they bring in, the chrysanthemums and the Iceland poppies. And it's also a great time to plant snapdragons for the following year.
Ah, yes. Is it too late for me to start my snapdragons from seed for the winter?
I don't think so. No, I've planted them very late in fall and they've been fine. So if you start them now by seed and get them out there in the ground, I think they'll be okay. Yeah.
And speaking of snapdragons, here's a little interesting thing I learned this year. There are 4 types of snapdragons. I don't know what all of each 4 is, but essentially there's 2 types which are better for warm weather blooming and
Mm.
2 types which are better for cool and cold weather blooming. So that's a
Yeah,
new
it's
one for me.
interesting. Yeah. I just always thought, oh, you plant them in fall and they're going to do so much
Right.
better. I thought you were going to mention how their little seed heads look like skulls. Have you
I
seen
have
that?
never thought about the seed heads
Have
on
you never seen
snapdragon.
that? Oh,
I've seen them. They look like what?
yeah, they look like little skulls I post it every Halloween because I can't. It's the creepiest thing.
A little skull.
Oh, I
So
can't
it's the
pronounce
accent thing
it. I
going.
can't pronounce it. Bruce, we've both been in speech therapy. So as much as I make fun of your accent, you can make fun of me. That's fine.
Yeah, except here I sound like a speech therapy dropout anyway.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, my worst thing is when I because I was in speech therapy for the R's, but Yeah. So if when I
I
drop
say,
when I drop it,
why would anyone need that?
I know. Well, people used to think as a kid, they're like, "Are you from New York?" I'm like, "No," because they're like, "You just said you want to go for a ride in the car."
In the car. Yeah,
Man, I got
makes life a
yeah.
lot easier. But I just want to say that our R's are in balance because while we take them at the end of words like butter
Uh-huh.
and summer, we
Uh-huh.
add them to words like idea and vanilla.
Well, yeah, true. Some people
So we're in
do.
equilibrium.
Yes, yes. So, anyways, I'm quite proud of
Anyway.
my R's when I do say them, but certain things like skull, goalie, I can't say certain things. And Joe will just be like, "What? What?" It just yeah, make me say it. I'm like, "That's mean." Uh, all right, enough. That this is like therapy, and it's therapy about speech therapy.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Tasks. So speaking of, vegetable gardens, yeah, I mean, white flies might be attacking.
Hmm.
You might be tired of certain vegetables. They might be done producing. Certain ones may be done. So go ahead. Don't feel bad. I mean, don't feel bad about pulling things out if you need space. Because they could keep going. In theory, most of these plants could keep going till the frost, which won't happen until November. So it's up to you whether or not the the space allocation for it is and that's what you want. You want every single tomato possible, or you want to rip it out because it's not producing as much, or it's not it's taking up space. Which really though, tomatoes are just started. Some of them, I did 2 plantings, one early and one later, and the later
Oh,
one
you're
is
smart.
just starting. It wasn't on purpose, Bruce. There was no planting whatsoever. Someone just gave me some ones, and I'm like, okay, I'll plant them. We had that spike in temperatures, and that sort of just went hold off the ripening a bit. So, but yeah, cleaning things up. If you're if you're questioning whether something has a disease, like something just had a complete collapse, avoid putting it in your compost pile. Just put that in the garbage. Um,
And I've heard, by the way, speaking of not wanting to put disease plants into your compost heap, I've heard that if you grow broccoli too many years in the same place,
mhm.
there's some sort of fungal infection that can occur that you want to, again, that's more crop rotation, but that you want to not put your crops in the exact same space every year.
Oh, I think. Well, I mean, I think that it's Fusarium and Phytophthora. That's why you want to rotate your tomatoes out,
Right.
because they're just thriving on that. So you want to give the pathogens nothing to go on. So that's another reason to rotate the crops is
Right.
for that.
And
You
if
don't
you
want to
think you have a
build up
diseased
on it.
plant, of course, don't
Yeah.
put it in your
Hmm.
compost.
Yeah. Clean up any old fruit on your fruit trees. If it's dropped, clean that up because that could just harbor pests. But really, it's just sort of light cleaning up. You could start pruning things back. We were talking about catnip, things that grow like catnip that have that basal center growth, like your oreganos and your thymes. You could cut the spindly ones back, and you'll still get a second bloom of it. Um, yeah, it is. You could start right about now starting to divide certain perennials. If you have some
Yeah.
grasses can go into the cold, but if now you're like, hey, it's getting too big, I would wait towards the end of September to start doing that. But if you have agapanthus, you need to dig up and divide, you could do
Yeah,
that.
I just dug up a big clump of agapanthus
Mm-hmm.
that was growing. Interestingly enough, in my old property, we have some landscape fabric that the previous owners put in,
Mm.
and the hydrangeas were not growing. They were growing on top of the landscape fabric. So when I ripped
Oh,
the landscape fabric out, all my not hydrangeas, I'm sorry,
agapanthus.
my my agapanthus came up.
Yeah.
So, and they're just sitting there on top of the soil, perfectly happy
Isn't that
now.
crazy? Yeah, they don't care. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, they don't
but
care. A
yeah,
lot of
those you can probably divide anytime.
hmm So really it's just upkeep, transition to your fall garden, maintenance, of course, watching for the pests, hand picking some of your larger pests like stink bugs and the leaf-footed bugs. There's really, if it's larger than, I would say your pinky nail. Spraying, you're gonna have to hand pick them off. White flies, oof, good luck. I hate to say it, there's just not much to do once the white flies come in. I mentioned kaolin clay. You could put that on the leaves as a buffer. But
Could one use insecticidal soap for whiteflies?
you can, but every day you'd have to do it.
Right.
And the idea is if you spray any movement, they're going to go flying up. And yes, if you
That's
coat
true.
the leaf, they'll land back on it and they would get sticky. But the cycles are so quick. So you can't just do it once and say, oh, it didn't work. It probably is working. You just have to do repeated uses of
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Same with spider mites. We're going to
Oh.
actually going to start talking a little bit about houseplants
Mm-hmm.
or my outdoor spider mites. It's getting close to the time where I want to spray. I'm not going to say preventatively because I'm sure I have spider mites in some of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and I will use insecticidal soap and I'll spray it like every 3 days or so for probably a month just to be sure that they're clean.
Yeah, and soap will work on spider mites if you get them young enough, but it's not truly a miticide. Sulfur dust works really well, but if you're doing it every day and you're catching them young where they haven't built up, sort
Yeah.
of then yeah. But just one time isn't going to really work
No,
great for
no,
spider
not with
mites.
spider mites.
No.
Even frankly, every 3 or 5 days for a month is not going to
Mm-hmm.
get them completely gone, but it gets them enough so that then I can
Yeah.
bring them indoors for my sunroom.
Yeah. You want to
I
move
would
on
also,
to?
yeah, I
Go
want to
ahead.
add on house plants.
Uh-huh.
If you have plants that you brought outside and they're starting to do really, really well, and you think they might need repotting, and you're going to probably bring them in, I'm going to say late October to early November, depending on how the weather is. So if you do need to repot them and divide them or just repot them, now's the time so that they get some good, not so hot growing period
Mm-hmm.
before you bring them in.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
really all that.
Yeah. Let's move on to some questions.
Sure.
Okay. So this is from Rebecca. What indoor potting soil do you recommend? I heard you want to avoid peat moss in the soil. And we both were like, that's interesting. Avoid peat moss.
Yeah.
And there's two ways I could see that. One, peat moss is not completely sustainable. And a lot of companies are phasing it out and replacing it with coconut coir. Or she heard, oh, it holds too much moisture.
Yeah,
And
that's where I was thinking
mm-hmm.
that
Yes.
might be a concern.
Yeah. So okay. So there's most potting soil bagged is pretty crappy. I'm just going to say that.
It is. I will agree with that.
Yes. There's some good brands that I recommend, but for the most part, it's really crappy. It's basically just like redwood compost almost. It's not even peat moss. So you think peat moss in a potting soil is good. You need water holding
Right.
material.
Well, and there are a lot of peat-based potting mixes.
Mm-hmm.
There is one potting mix, I think it's called Pro Mix, which my recollection, at least, again, depending on where you're getting it, was nothing more than peat moss and perlite.
Perlite. Yep. Well, that's what our CP mix is. So here's the breakdown on peat moss. It is decomposing sphagnum moss, which is a moss. And it's peat moss. It's in these bogs and it's incredibly acidic. So that's why they're able to harvest this material because it hasn't broken down over a long period of time.
Hundreds of years.
Yes. It's inert, meaning it doesn't have a lot of nutrients. It is acidic, which most plants prefer. It's great at holding moisture. And most plants, when you get them at a nursery, like you said, are in a soil like Pro Mix, which is pretty much all peat moss, because one, nurseries could start cuttings directly in it because it holds moisture. And when you ship them, it holds a lot of moisture. So you don't have to worry about your plants. You don't have to worry about the plants drying out. It's acidic and plants do like it, especially if they're fertilizing them in a greenhouse. They don't have to worry about the low nutrients.
Right.
What the problem
Now,
is when you get
yeah.
one and most people kill their plants by overwatering them. So it's too much moisture.
And I guess what I'd say is we were talking a few minutes ago about how the vast majority of bagged potting soils are, frankly, bad.
Yeah.
What I do, but the problem then becomes if if you're going to buy ready-made potting soil, you might pay a heck of a lot of money for something that might be better, but might not be.
Mm-hmm.
So what I finally decided to do is I would say I make my own soil, but not quite. What I do is I buy a big bag of what I consider a better quality potting soil. And one of the ways you can tell, in my opinion, better quality potting soils, lift the bag up. If the bag
Mhm.
is so heavy,
Mhm.
it's probably dirt in a bag.
Yeah,
If the bag is
exactly.
relatively light, and let's just assume it's not a compressed
Uh-huh.
bale of potting mix, then it's a lighter mix. What I will then do is, speaking of peat, I'll add, I'm going to say, to 1/3 part of peat, and then I'll add probably really more to my eyes what it looks like would look right, but I'll add perlite, vermiculite, and I'll actually add some charcoal to it too.
Yeah.
And if I want a really more open mix, I'll actually add some bark.
Yeah. And it depends on what going for. But yeah, I
Right,
would buy, like, I will just say EB Stone and Fox Farms. Those are the
right, Fox
two.
Farms.
They have good quality potting soil. You could probably plant directly in that and be okay. But if you do take, say, like Miracle Grow, it's pretty much just peat moss with slow release fertilizer in it.
Which is another issue we should talk about.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's great, except for most people over water. And then once that slow release fertilizer is done, and if you don't start a fertilizer regime, then it's too much. So no, don't avoid peat moss. And in fact, it's great at holding the water moisture. If you're worried about sustainability, you can try coconut coir, except for we did an experiment at work with these fast plants, which is a Brassicaceae, which is a mustard family. We grow them normally in peat moss. We tried some in coconut coir. The difference was crazy. The ones in coconut coir were stunted and yellow.
Well,
And
coconut coir is apparently has a high salt content,
yes, I think we've talked about that. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I'm assuming that it's been rinsed and
Yeah.
cleaned, but
Uh-huh.
maybe not all coconut coir is equal.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Just like even all peat moss isn't.
Oh
Peat
yeah,
moss,
you
you do.
great variety.
We keep saying how well peat moss holds water, but it's also incredibly hydrophobic. So if you've ever, and I'm sure, I mean, even we've done this, you say you put it in a bin to re-wet it or pre-wet it before you use it, you know, the top floats up because it's so hydrophobic. So you really need to wet the soil before, turn it, and then plant in it. Never try to plant directly in any dry potting soil, especially peat moss, because you're
No, in
not going
fact,
to
I,
water
I actually
moisten them.
always do the same thing. I'll wet my
Hmm.
mix, not wet so it's soaking wet,
No.
but just add a little bit of water, stir it up so that it starts to become. If you'll know by the feel, it won't feel dusty in your hands
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. So no, it's not, it's okay. In fact, I think we've replaced our peat moss in our mass bulk soil, and we put coconut coir instead. We haven't transitioned out of peat moss for our carnivores because probably of that salt issue. We need something with absolutely no salts and minerals, and we know that peat moss is that. So
And
yeah.
if you've seen carnivores growing in the wild, guess what seems to grow with them?
Yeah,
Sphagnum moss.
exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah, we just had I just had a student harvest a whole bunch of sphagnum moss out of our carnivorous little diorama, and we're going to sell live sphagnum moss because people love
very
it.
good.
Yes. All right, next question.
Oh, can we just add one thing? We talked
Sure.
about the soil
Mhm.
fertilizer in the soil soil that comes with fertilizer.
Oh
I
yeah.
try to avoid that because
Yeah.
I control the fertilizer myself. I don't want um, plants being in fertilized. No, it's not a lot of fertilizer in them, but I don't want to buy something where someone else is doing the fertilizing.
You
That's
could tell a lot of person about how they garden. And so it's like, is Bruce controlling? Hold on. He doesn't like to buy pre-fertilized bags of soil. He
I
likes to
will never
control it
buy
himself.
impatiens in the store either
Bruce,
because of that fungus disease.
yes,
So,
Bruce has to start everything by seed, so he has full control.
well, that's because
Yes,
I'm
Bruce
cheap.
is.
Cheap is a different
Bruce
story
is cheap
entirely.
and controlling. If
I'm a
that's just
controlling
kidding.
cheap person.
There you go. Just kidding. All right, Tina. I have a banana plant and had it outside. This week it was scorching hot and it burned the leaves. What is the best way to revive it? I mean, I'll let you start off.
Well, sure. There's two ways to grow bananas. One is in a pot and one is in the ground. That was easy.
There you go.
Let's just say, for the sake of the discussion, because this will be easier, if the plant is in a pot, number one, bananas grow extremely quickly. So if you potted the plant up, I'm going to say in May, and it is now August, there's a good possibility that it's already root bound.
Yep.
So then what happens is you get a couple of scorching hot days or weeks, and the banana is drying up every single day. So if you're not keeping up on the watering, and you can't, because if you water it in the morning and go to work, when you get back, it will be dry if it's in too small a pot, then that is going to result in burned leaves, because when a plant is dehydrated, it's easier for the leaves to burn in the hot sun. So first, if it's in a pot, get it into a shadier spot. Maybe put it into an area which just gets a little bit of light, and then gradually increase the light, even though it's late in the season, until it gets light till, let's just say, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is noon in daylight savings time. I think that will at least allow it to grow back. If it's in too small a pot, repot it into a bigger pot, and it'll grow out of that pretty quickly too, which is the problem with bananas. They're not really plants for pots. They might work well in a tub, but a
They just bust
big
out, yeah.
tub.
Yeah, so they're monocarpic, and it's not to even say that they need to bloom and the mother plant needs to die before it'll start sending out side pups before that even happens. So you're going to get a cluster of them before.
And for those who don't know what monocarpic is,
Mhm.
that's a plant that flowers and then dies, like a bromeliad.
Correct. Yes. So it's true. A stressed plant, and definitely water stressed, is gonna burn quicker. But they're also just adapted to higher humidity and less intense sun, and they have a larger surface area of a leaf. So
Right.
larger leaves tend to burn more. That's why you look at desert plants; they don't have leaves for the most part.
Right.
You look at plants that are from our California natives from a dry area, very small, very gray, maybe hairy leaves. It's all trying to mitigate this heat. So then you bring in this tropical plant with a thin leaf, fairly thin, large, adapted to humidity, no gray, so it's not reflecting light, and it's going to burn. Now, the good news is you haven't killed the plant. It's hard to kill a banana plant with heat.
And they will come back really quickly.
They will come back really quickly. And I would avoid cutting off the whole entire leaf. I know it's probably unsightly if you could cut off maybe if the worst brown edge or tip, or just leave it. But you don't want to cut all the leaves off because it's still green. It's still photosynthesizing, but cut some off if it's, and then of course, make sure it's watered. And yeah, if it's in a pot, it'll definitely need more water than if it's in the ground, but don't fertilize it. Don't do anything there's nothing special to add to it. It's just heat stressed and sun stressed.
Right. And if it's in the ground, your options are a little more limited. If it's in the ground, that would be a case of you probably need to give it more water. If it's small right now, I have a couple of small bananas, and I actually put some shade cloth above them so that they wouldn't burn as they're just trying to establish themselves. When a banana is established, let's just say you now have an 8-foot tall banana in your garden. I've never really had issues with scorching sun because they're big, they're established, they're pulling up water as long as you are watering well. You'll also notice that by around 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. in a hot day, you'll notice the leaves of the banana start to fold in half. And that's because they're trying to avoid getting burnt, trying to avoid the hot sun, and they're wilting a little bit. So that's actually protective.
Yeah. So we grow a decent amount in the conservatory, in the teaching greenhouse, because we have to have them. So we have to have them small. So we're constantly dividing. Some of the older ones we planted on a south side where there was a giant tree in the summer, so it got protection from the sun. That tree died, sadly. So then these plants had full southern exposure, which in the winter they were protected. But also keep in mind, any walls are going to reflect heat. So if it's in the ground or in a pot and you have it on the south side, it may be able to handle it. But then if that heat and sun is reflecting off of that south wall, it's getting a double dose. So always look at what's around it.
Yeah, we talked about drought tolerant plants.
Yeah.
This is not one of them.
No.
But if you have just a few, just give them the extra water.
Yeah. And it's not like they actually could go a decent amount without water because they're full of water. It's just
That's true.
So they're full of water, so it's going to take a little bit. They're just not going to be happy and look good because those leaves will wilt.
And if you should remove the leaves, don't remove the leaf all the way to the base because
Mm-mm.
the leaf stalk is the banana tree itself.
Yeah.
The banana trees don't have any wood. They're basically the stem is just leaf bases,
Yeah. Yep.
leaf
Yeah.
petioles.
Yes. Yes. All right. Next one. Next question.
Sure. You want to
Okay.
read this one?
Or do you want to read it?
Okay. This is from Denise,
Mm-hmm.
and Denise says, I have some Amaryllis belladonna that were planted years ago and some within the last 3 years. I have no blooms except for one set. The old ones only develop leaves every other year, but without blossoms. Any advice? The bulbs are still firm. As I read this, it says the older ones only
Mm-hmm.
develop leaves every other year. Now, when she doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
every alternate year, she means they've developed leaves. What does she mean by
I don't
that?
know. This is where there's always the question, then we always have to decipher what the question is. Remember, anytime you submit a question, there's no more information's better.
Right. And
Yeah.
remember, we're reading them, and we will put our own spin on
Yes,
what
we
we
picture.
think
Yeah.
you mean, and we might
Yeah.
not be right.
Yeah. Develop leaves every other year. So does that mean 1 year it doesn't do anything? And then 1 year, then it'll I mean, that's what I'm picturing it's
That's what I
almost
thought I was just
like,
reading it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So
Let,
I've,
let's just say for the
uh-huh.
discussion, though, that it develops leaves every year, but it never blooms.
Yes. Okay. Let's say that.
So I guess my first question then, or thought, is if it's previously bloomed, maybe it's crowded and needs to be divided.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I've had them and never divided them and still got blooms. I will say I'd have 20 bulbs of which I'd get 5 flower spikes, but
Yeah.
that's
See?
easy enough.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, belladonnas, I've never seen anyone really dig them up, but like any bulb, if they get crowded, or irises, you're going to have either smaller flowers or dwindling returns
Right.
because it's an energy source. So if each bulb is smaller and smaller, it gets squeezed out and squeezed out, there's less energy. Or they could just get old.
Yeah, and some things they just stop for reasons unknown. They become, I'll say, senescent. They just
Mm-hmm.
stop doing their thing, and sometimes just separating them out into individual bulbs
Mm-hmm.
gets them a new lease
Yeah.
on life.
But you did mention something about amaryllis and burying amaryllis too deep, which I always
Yes.
forget about.
I have just the outdoors. I actually have the hippeastrum, which are what we
Mhm.
used to call amaryllis, the big red
Yes.
flowers you have during Christmas time. And I grow them in the ground. And when you plant those indoors in a pot, you have to have the top of the bulb sticking outside above the pot a little bit because they don't like to be buried deep. In the ground, I set mine a little bit lower just because I feel I don't want them too exposed to whatever,
Mhm.
animals or whatever.
Mhm.
But I think that the Amaryllis belladonna probably should be planted a little more shallow also than, let's just say, a tulip bulb.
Yes.
So that could be part of it. But on the other hand, they've been there for several years. And one of the things you'll notice is as bulbs get older, they tend to rise to the surface, so they find their own level.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I don't know, but I mean, this is what I would say. It's firm. So obviously they're not mushed out, because that's something I would definitely, when people like, oh, my bulbs didn't come up, or, okay, is it mushed out? I also possibly not enough sun. You see them growing in the shade, but if it's too shady, they may not be growing. Their foliage may not last long enough, or might not be producing enough photosynthase to get back into the bulb.
and maybe when you planted them, they were in sun, but now their trees have grown up around them.
Crowded. So that's the one thing you could control. Well, the sun too is just dig them up, separate them, replant them, keep them a little bit higher. There's that. Yeah, that's what I would. That's what I would do.
And now's a good time to do it because they haven't sprouted their leaves yet.
No.
And they're not quite dormant because it's the blooming time, but this would be a great time to do it. And frankly, even though they're dormant in the sense that their leaves aren't up, their roots are active year round. I mean, if you dig them up in the summer, you see nice, healthy roots generally.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not blooming now, you have nothing to lose, because right now they're blooming. And so, it's not like you're going to dig them up and then kill the flowers off. So you really don't have much to lose on that. So, but it's interesting because I've had that question before from amaryllis. And I don't know if it's because most people then don't notice other bulbs not, because they're so just, like showy.
Right.
Um,
I will say, because I am a plant snob, I am a self-confessed plant snob, that there are some, now they're really hard to get. And unfortunately, I had a lot of them, which I no longer have access to. There are striped amaryllis
uh,
belladonnas. There are deeper
uh,
colored ones. There are ones with white interiors.
mm.
There's so many varieties than the which I think is somewhat boring, the pink one that you see everywhere.
But see, I mean, to
That's
me,
a plant.
that's belladonna. That the pink
Right.
one is amaryllis belladonna. If I wanted, I mean, not saying that if you showed me one, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I want one. But some of the other amaryllis, the hippiastrums, those you're just like, oh my God, look at the stripes on that.
Oh
The
yes.
papillon, what is it? The
I'm
papillon.
talking about amaryllis belladonna. Someone's done a lot of breeding on those.
Yeah, no, I know. But I sort of like the standard, I guess maybe because they remind me of my grandma's house.
Well, my grandma lived in Brooklyn.
Oh, my grandma didn't garden. That's why, because it was the only thing that like bloomed. It was like in the middle of nowhere. And for some reason, all the family members died, and she had really bright pupils. Remember belladonna? Don't you know this? You're an
Yes,
optometrist,
amaryllis
right?
belladonna. But of course,
Belladonna.
that's not the source of.
Oh, you're right. It's the
It
solanum
comes from the
belladonna.
nightshade.
Oh, we already talked about that. But it
Oh,
is, yeah, that's true. We did belladonna. You're right. I should know this as a true crime buff and a plant person. But I went with the belladonna.
and it might
Anyways,
be worth feeding them a little bit too, if they're not.
well, you love to feed your bulbs. That's right.
I do. I'm.
do.
It's the Jewish
Yeah.
grandmother in me. You should eat.
You should eat. Yeah. God,
I hope we answered the
was it
question.
really my grandparents my grandmas that never wanted to feed us? My gosh, you have Italian, you have Jewish, you have Spanish. I mean,
What
my
did you have?
husband's
Generic grandmother.
generic would be they feed you.
That's
I come from a long line of maternal women who do not cook. Yeah. Yeah, sad because I love to eat. Anyways, okay, last question. This is a long one, so
I'm gonna let you read it because I won't stumble over words.
We're gonna break this down. We'll decipher as we speak. Okay. I've had 3 hydrangeas for a few years. Each year they are full of flowers resembling a bouquet. Yes. So you could see we're talking about the mop head hydrangeas most likely. But this year they have put out few flowers. The leaves come out beautiful at first and then they turn grotesque. You don't use that. People don't use that word grotesque that much anymore. I like it. Showing deep veins and eventually they turn dark. And I don't know if they mean dark green or just dark brown. See, more info. Someone's writing this. They have the image in their head and they just assume we're all in their head, which I do all the time. Joe just nodded yes. Have any idea what is going on with these plants? I did add some limestone to one of them that changes the color of the flowers from pink to red, but it seems that the flowers never turn red as I expected. However, I didn't add any of the limestone to the other 2. Although I did add some of the chemical that turns the flowers bluer. Okay, please help me, Marlene. We have been watching you, my wife and I, just about every Sunday for years. Always look forward to your advice. It's always scary when people like, we've been watching you. But then I realize,
that's just so
on
TV.
TV.
They know that they're a fan and hopefully you'll answer
I know,
their
but
question.
sometimes, yes. Okay, let's break this down. So it sounds like they're hydrangea microphylla, which is the big leafed mop head hydrangea, probably the most popular one. But that does matter because hydrangeas there's different ones. Now, I'm just going to start saying the leaves come out. We'll tackle the leaves first. They come out. They're beautiful at first. Okay. Then they turn grotesque, showing deep veins, and eventually they turn dark. I'm assuming they turn like a dark purpley brown is my guess. I don't think they're turn dark green because most people would not be complaining if their leaves turn dark green. Right. So what I think is happening is this is a sign of iron chlorosis. When you have the veins that are green and then the surrounding leaf yellowish, that is iron chlorosis, meaning the iron is not available to the plant. Then a lot of times the plants will turn dark like a brown because of boron toxicity, which is also affected by pH. So we think there's an iron thing going on stemming from pH issues. So we're going to leave that. Now, let's address the red color, the pink to red with the limestone. Do you want to?
Yeah, well, I want to start with you talked about pH, and of course, limestone
Mm-hmm.
makes the soil more basic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want to add limestone to your soil in this here?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're already dealing with somewhat alkaline soil to begin with. But I will say, as far as limestone and acid goes with hydrangeas, if anyone's taken chemistry and used litmus paper, there's a saying: red in acid, blue in base, and B for blue and D at the end of acid for the same as the end of red. That's how you
I
remember it.
would hope just blue its base, and then the other one would just go,
Okay,
oh yeah.
yeah. But with plants, with hydrangeas, it's the
Uh-huh.
exact opposite. So it's red in base, blue in acid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the one thing to remember. So
What if you're
typically in
dropping
this
acid
area,
while you're
if you
looking
want
at your
your hydrangeas to be
hydrangeas?
that bright blue, you need to
Right.
have more acid.
Did you hear me? What if you're dropping acid while you're in your looking at your
Then there'll be colors you would never believe.
and
Green,
everything's good with
purple,
the
orange,
world.
and you might even see Thomas Edison in one of them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So sorry, I interrupted you with my lame
No.
joke. Okay.
So the first thing is if you're wanting your hydrangeas to be bluer,
Uh-huh.
first of all, you have to have a blue variety. A red
Yes.
variety hydrangea will not
Yes.
turn blue because you gave it acid. My guess is it might be purplish, but I don't know for sure. So you have to have the right variety.
Yes.
Then to maximize the color, if it's a blue hydrangea, you'll generally want to give it some acid fertilizer. There is an acid, mere acid, I think, is more higher acid fertilizer. But in general, you want a higher acid soil. I would not add limestone to a hydrangea here. I just think it might even have been part of the problem, except that you only added it to one plant, and yet they all look the same.
Well, actually, do they all look the same? Okay. So what I think is going on is, um, did they say if they had blue hydrangeas, or did they
Well,
just
he
say they
did
had
add some of
pink?
the. Oh, it says that they added some of
Yes.
the chemical
Okay.
that turns to blue, but we don't know if it was a blue hydrangea.
So this is no. So this is true. So a lot of hydrangeas won't turn color. The microphilas, the mop heads, for the most part, the ones that, unless all these weird, bizarre hybrids, the lace caps won't do it. You have most places around here, like you said, are more alkaline. Your pH is above 7, so 7 is neutral. And so say you have an 8 pH in your soil, your water, you're alkaline. You're going to have pink hydrangeas. To make it bluer, you're going to want to drop the pH because that's not the iron. It's the aluminum that will turn the colors of the hydrangea. So aluminum will make more aluminum available to the plant, will make the hydrangeas bluer. Aluminum becomes more available when the pH is lower. So you drop your pH by adding soil sulfur, and it eventually will loosen up, allow that aluminum to go in, and your hydrangeas will turn bluer, even down to a darker purple. Now, if you have pink hydrangeas, you have alkaline base, and now you're adding more limestone, you're making your soil even more basic. So you're going to have pink. And he was trying to go for red, but red, you're not going to get red. There are some varieties that are red. I've never seen a red hydrangea. I mean, I think it would have to be so basic.
Yeah, I think the hydrangeas that are red, I mean, it's really just, I mean, it's red compared to blue,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
not red
But it's
like a stop
pink.
sign. Red.
Yeah. And then what you're doing is you're adding the limestone and you're dropping you're increasing the pH, which binds up the iron. So iron is also more readily available when the pH is lower. Now you're having signs of iron chlorosis, which is the green veins and the yellow leaf, and then you're having the brown because that's sort of what happens. So don't add any more limestone at all. If you have if you have basic soil, you're going to have pink hydrangeas. Add the pH adjuster. I think EB Stone sells they call it aluminum. It's aluminum adjuster. You're not adding aluminum because once again, aluminum's in the soil. I think it's soil sulfur marketed a different way to allow that aluminum, and it takes time. It could take time.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. It might not
Yeah,
happen in a season, even if it
yeah,
takes a while for that, to go through the soil before it
yeah.
gets into your
It's
plant.
really fascinating plant because it's one of the few where you could completely change the color of the flowers. I mean, growing up in San Diego, our neighbor had the most beautiful. Like it was like the purplest. And of course, that's what everyone wants when you can't have it. And
Right.
then
You always want what you can't
you always
have.
want what you can't have, right? And they probably wanted pink hydrangeas, and I want blue hydrangeas and the
Look,
purples. Yeah.
I'm just glad to be able to have hydrangeas bloom because when I lived somewhere else,
Uh-huh.
the if
You
you
had,
had a really severe winter, you
yeah.
wouldn't get flowers the next year because hydrangeas generally bloom on older wood.
Yes. Yes. No, and that's going back to when people say, "Oh, mine's not blooming." And it's like, "Did you cut it back in the fall all the way down?" Because a lot of times people think you need to cut them all the way down. And I've talked about this a decent amount. Only prune your hydrangeas to thin them of the old canes, or
That
don't
have
prune
bloomed
them.
already. Do you mean that?
Or if they bloomed already, yes, you could prune the flowers, but say it's really crowded, then you could go ahead and prune down some of them
Uh,
completely to the ground. But it's weird is I had someone say, because there's always exceptions. So you're telling me back east where they did die to the ground. You
in a
never
bad
had
winter.
blooms?
I would sometimes would get blooms towards the end of the season. I'm assuming that the reason is because as the season progressed and it started to cool off, that was triggering bloom.
Because I'm picturing back east, snow covering them, and there's no foliage, no material. But then you see pictures of these, I was going to say Martha Stewart's place, where there's
Yeah.
these huge, does she just cover them so they don't all die to the
Um,
ground?
I'm going to say that there are a lot of different varieties of hydrangeas that are hardy.
Okay.
This is more what we're growing here. I believe might even be the florist's hydrangea.
Mm. Well, there's, yeah,
That
yeah.
they the exact same.
Hmm.
So the problem was that if we had a cold winter, the stems would die back down. So
Hmm.
you would want to protect them.
Hmm.
As long as you had enough of the stem survive the winter, then that would sprout secondary growth, and those would bloom, I believe.
Okay.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, because I had
Back
someone
in
tell me, "Oh yeah, we prune ours down every single year, and they bloom for us." And they sent me a picture, and they were beautiful. And I'm like, "Well, there you go. There's theory out,
Well,
rules out the window."
and that's the other thing is that when you have a distinct winter, which we don't have here, you have a different physiology of the plant.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
And we actually grew hydrangeas. I'm not going to say in full hot bright sun there, but they were generally not shaded. If they
yeah,
got some shade, that was fine. Whereas here, if you grow them in full sun, you just kill them.
yeah. They're gonna burn. Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's really the condition, and this is back to what we'd say at the beginning, which we're zone 9B, but your conditions are going to vary dramatically, even frankly in zone 9B, depending on if it's a humid zone 9B
yeah.
or a dry zone 9B,
Hmm.
and you will get different results. And that's sort of the fun of gardening.
Yeah. You had beautiful purple ones in your last house. Those are
I did,
beautiful because you also grew blueberries. You had very acidic water and
right? And
soil.
I'm trying blueberries now, and they're not doing much. I'm adding sulfur to the soil, but probably
Yeah.
not
And
enough.
you're still way more acidic than I am. So, well, of course, anyone is. I mean, it's the worst. So,
Yeah,
um,
the lye companies come to you to get
yeah,
water. So
I think so. I have pink hydrangeas. We'll just leave it at that.
you have
Very.
hydrangeas. That's good
I have
enough.
hydrangeas, and they're the leaves look great. So there's no chlorosis, and I will say it's the most bizarre thing, which is worrisome too. Is I don't prune them because I don't need to, so I just leave them. I don't water them at all during the summer. Now we live in a very old house, and there is a dry well outside the laundry room, which collapsed.
Mm.
Which, when we first moved in, it would overflow with soapy suds. So we think the wash machine drains to the dry well, and we think the dry well is collapsed. So I have a feeling the hydrangea roots might be in this nice.
So you have a gray water system.
We have a gray water. That's a really nice way of putting it. We have a gray water system. It's probably eroding underneath the house, and the house will collapse.
And one day you'll find yourself you'll wake up in the morning with hydrangea roots all over you.
I might actually utilize this more and start planting a few more things. But yeah, I don't water the hydrangea at all during the summer.
Well, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing, as you said, that sometimes plants just don't follow the rules,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, but then these are some of the rules. Limestone is going to make things more alkaline. Sulfur will make things more acidic. Plants across the board prefer acidity. That's it. So it's always, always double check what you're adding to your soil. Do you need it? What do you have? Yeah. So,
As we're talking about pruning issue. I don't know about the other hydrangeas, that other species, if they need to be blooming on old wood. But
No,
these
not all
these
of
days
them.
they're so complicated, the hybrids, that for all you know, that whole pruning issue might not even be a thing anymore.
I don't think for some of these crazy when there's all those lace caps, no. And then I want to grow that hydrangea paniculata, paniculata,
I think I
panicula. It's more of a elongated white flower that then turns pink as it
is that
fades.
is that the one that's sort of like a tree, a small tree,
A little
just
bit,
a large
yeah,
tree?
yeah. So then there's the oak leaf hydrangea as well. But yeah, it looks like a tree and it's beautiful. And that one I think you prune different. I could be completely wrong with that. But
If
some of them
that's
you
the
could prune in fall. Yeah,
if that's the one, I think it is. It's a pretty hardy, cold tolerant tree,
yes, yes, yeah.
and
Mhm.
my aunt had one of those in her side of her house, and just was about a 8 foot tall tree. It wasn't, a
Whoa,
big, big tree.
I don't know if that's the same thing.
It
That's
might be
tall.
a different one,
I
but
wonder
it
if that's
wasn't an
viburnum.
oak leaf.
Yeah.
Definitely a hydrangea,
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's what it was.
Okay.
And what's really nice is it bloomed sort of whitish, and then
Mhm.
turned sort of reddish, and then turned sort of greenish. And
Yeah.
Uncle Nelson would take the flower heads and he'd spray them with hairspray,
Oh.
and that way they last longer.
I bet that was an oak leaf hydrangea. I think they can probably get that big.
Oh, maybe it was.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's 45, 50 years ago, so who
Wow.
remembers?
We do. I remember all the plants from the yards growing up when I was 3 years old. I'm like, "Oh, this house had this." I didn't know what they were. I found them later in life. I'm like, "Oh, we had that. We had that.
Well,
My
you have to
neighbor
remember,
had
I had
that."
that much more life and that many more plants that I have to remember.
Yeah, okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. Anyways, if you have questions or comments, go ahead and email me at marlenetheplantlady@gmail.com. Follow us on, I say us now because, social media, Marlene the Plant Lady on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, if you like this podcast, go ahead and share it with your friends, share it on social media. And of course, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. On Apple, if you leave a nice review, along with your 5 stars, it just bumps us up into the algorithm, and then more people will find our podcast. And
And there's no rhythm like an algorithm.
ooh, I brought my keyboard in today for students to play because I'm leaving for a few weeks, and you played today, and my gosh, it was like a classical music concert.
Well, thank you.
Very talented. I'm just playing my chopsticks.
All of this and plants too.
Yeah, all this and plants. And he's single. Everyone, can I mention you're single?
Oh, don't say that on the air. Please edit that out.
Okay. Why? We already
I'm
said
blushing.
you're blushing. It's audio only, Bruce. No one's going to see you blush. You don't. Yeah. Well, remember, you already said you're cheap and controlling. Oh,
I'm not controlling. I'm just cheap.
just kidding.
Not all that. I'm not cheap when it comes to buying plants. I will say
No,
that.
I know. No. So you can make fun of me too. It's okay. I'll just cry.
I did just buy a piano, and that's not cheap.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there
Do you
you
hear me? You can make fun of me, but I'll cry. So just forewarned. That's
Oh,
yeah.
well.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll go. So until next time, everyone, happy gardening.
And we'll see you next time.